All right, we begin on this Sunday morning with the latest in the R.J. May saga. This past week, the House Ethics Committee hiring outside attorneys, private attorneys, to investigate what's being termed conduct unbecoming of a member. It's widely believed to be the suspended lawmaker from Lexington County. Of course, for weeks now, May's been held without bail at the Edgefield County Detention Center on federal child porn charges. That's where we begin on this week's edition of Connect to the Capitol. Dave Wilson, Catherine Glenn Foster, we have talked about this issue at length in recent weeks. There's been little pieces of information over the week that haven't led to many talking points. This is a troubling case, now landing in the laps of those in the House who, if they do take some type of action here, would essentially remove him from office without the governor having to do so. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because that is the function of the Ethics Committee in this particular case. They have the ability to go in, make a determination, is he in good standing or not in good standing? Since the fact that they didn't specifically say who they were talking about, and it was all done in executive session, you can pretty much guarantee this was the R.J. May discussion. And so bringing on a team of folks to take a look at that, I think is going to be them kind of covering their own rear ends on this to make sure that everything's done.
That's exactly right. When you bring in outside counsel, there's a reason. A lot of times you may have potential conflicts of interest. This is someone that many of them have spent some time serving with, may know outside. Who knows? Certainly co-founder of the Freedom Caucus. So, he has some connections here. And so when you bring in outside counsel, outside attorney, law firm, or outside private investigator, which is also most likely part of this, and we have to remember that pretty much anyone, if you dig deep enough, look hard enough, you're going to find some kind of a violation. Could be minor, could be, take a pen from the office or something like that. But when you have federal charges to this level, most likely we're also looking at serious misuse of office. And especially knowing what we know from that indictment, knowing how he was going back and forth with pursuing his activities, his illegal activities, and allegedly, and conducting work, saying, "Amen, Happy Easter," and researching potential
on the same devices that are linked to some of these searches.
Right.
Exactly.
And you have to keep in mind too, one of the things that is the story behind the story with this is that R.J. May was a political consultant, and he was running candidates against other members of the House, trying to build up this depth of the Freedom Caucus in there. And there's still some animosity. There were major rules changes that took place in the South Carolina House of Representatives because of the activities that he was doing. That is just another place I think an ethics committee is going to go, what other layers of protection are we going to have to put in here in order to maintain a level of stability and reliability and trust in the South Carolina House?
Yeah. So a case that certainly started with nothing to do with state politics could change the game here in the way things
Really
are structured.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Still a troubling case, something that we will definitely be staying tuned to, and we'll bring you the latest every week here if there is new information on that. Of course, a lot of this linked, of course, to that child porn issue, which is something that we're going to talk about in the next segment. The Attorney General, Alan Wilson, is here this week to talk about some Supreme Court rulings. Well, that was one reason.
Why did he be coming in?
But that was an issue that, of course, was very important to his office.
It was?
Tightening up online cybercrime when it comes to children. We're going to talk to him about that. But
And
there's
AI.
also AI, the recent Supreme Court ruling on that. So we're going to talk about that and something else that begins with a G. I believe governor is the word.
Really?
Yeah, we're going to get something out of him.
G word.
I feel like it's already 2026 already.
It is.
Feels
And there's
it.
some
It
more
feels
stuff
like
on that in a different race that we're going to get to at the end.
If you weren't
of the show.
celebrating America enough over the weekend with the 4th of July, welcome to South Carolina
you're gonna have
politics.
to
It's Sunday in
celebrate
South
to
Carolina.
celebrate your right to vote here, not too long from now. But I'll be right back. Alan Wilson in studio when we come back. All right, cool.
This is what they call literally cutting off your nose to spite your face.
But this is not the same as saying you cannot go see this doctor because we won't let you. This is saying that, well, Medicaid isn't going to cover that. We're not, state Medicaid funds aren't going to cover that. go find somewhere else that state Medicaid funds will cover.
Reaction there from a week ago, the U.S. Supreme Court handing down several opinions last week. This one pertaining to Planned Parenthood in South Carolina over allegations that the state was infringing on civil rights. Lawsuit there filed after the state decided to pull Planned Parenthood's Medicaid funding because it provides abortion. That was all linked to a Governor McMaster executive order in 2018. So that's where we start here in this second segment of Connected to Capitol this week. And as promised, we have brought in the Attorney General, Alan Wilson, to talk about a number of those rulings. Let's start with this one. Thank you for coming. Thank you for always coming, man. It's so good to always have you here. It's great to always
be invited. Thank you for having me.
That's true. And we're going to talk about some other things in a few minutes, but you already know what we're going to ask about that. But let's start with the Planned Parenthood issue here, because this was intrinsically linked to the state of South Carolina, of course.
Absolutely. This is the Medina case, and basically what the Supreme Court basically ruled in this particular case is that states have the right, while Medicaid as a program, as a federally funded program, it is administered by the states. And the state of South Carolina, through Governor McMaster's executive order years ago, said that they were not going to allow those administration of funds to go to Planned Parenthood. And then, of course, we got sued by Planned Parenthood. Yeah. That went up to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court says, no, South Carolina has a right to determine who is a qualified medical provider. It's important for people to understand that there are 2 Planned Parenthood facilities in the state of South Carolina and hundreds of other medical providers. So it's not like we are saying that people are not going to have access to health care. There's 2 facilities in the entire state, and states do have the right to make these decisions, and the Supreme Court ratified that in this decision.
That's just one of many rulings that came down last week that will have an impact here and all across this country. Another one of the rulings I know is very important to you, and because you had a commitment, and your office did, and the state lawmakers here, in fact, to cracking down at cybercrime, especially when it comes to pornography, children involved. And one of the rulings pertains to that, age verification for someone logging on to a pornographic website. This is out of the state of Texas.
Correct.
But the Supreme Court ruling on that.
This was another 6-3 decision, and it was called Free Speech Coalition versus Paxson, who's the Attorney General of Texas, my good friend. And basically, Texas passed a similar law, basically saying that if you run a pornographic website, you must have basically age verification to prevent someone who's under the age of 18 from coming in. The same thing we do in a brick and mortar, adult entertainment club or something like that. We have physical people standing to prevent minors from going in. The states are now saying, okay, we have these virtual places people can go to see pornographic material. The Supreme Court ruled 6-3, this conservative majority, saying states have the right to do this. They applied strict scrutiny, which is legalese for. It's a high bar for the state, or excuse me, for the people challenging it to clear. Basically meaning the state of Texas, just like the state of South Carolina, has a right to put age verification on porn websites to prevent children from seeing these things. It's amazing that we're having this argument right now.
I know. But maybe it ends there now because of this ruling, of course. One of the other things has to do with the continuing crackdown at the federal level on immigration. That's another one of these rulings.
Yes.
When it comes to what the Trump administration is doing. I know you've been fully supportive of what they are doing here. Another one of those rulings has to do with that, about across the board
nationwide injunctions. So that was Trump v. Casa, and the president signed an executive order back in January after he was sworn in that basically directed all federal agencies to not recognize children who were considered here under the birthright citizenship doctrine. This goes back to the 1890s. It was a case, and it's been a misapplied legal doctrine that if somebody is here illegally and they have a child here, that child anchors them here, and that child is also here. And that is based on the court's previous interpretation of the 14th Amendment that says all persons born or naturalized and subject to the jurisdiction of the United States thereof are citizens of the U.S. And we have taken the position that if you are not subject to the jurisdiction of the United States if your parents are here illegally. If you and I go to Mexico, and let's say we have spouses and our spouses have babies there, we are not subject to the jurisdiction for purposes of citizenship.
Sure.
We're not subject to the jurisdiction of Mexico. We're still U.S. citizens, so we don't get to all of a sudden anchor ourselves in Mexico. Why do they get to anchor themselves here? So by the way, this Supreme Court decision did not rule on the merits of whether birthright citizenship is constitutional or not. It simply says that local judges, a district judge, cannot do a nationwide injunction outside of their jurisdiction. And that is really important for this case because judges can only use the authority given to them by the Constitution or by an act of Congress. And the district court judges who enjoined this executive order nationwide did not have the authority to do that. So that is a constraint of imperialistic judges.
Yeah. I do remember when this one first came up, there was a lot of contention over this from a lot of different corners about whether this was going to hold up, and many said it would not, but the court said otherwise.
That's right.
Yeah, they said otherwise. Finally, one other one that has to do with children and what they're exposed to. Books, certain types of materials that they would see in school.
Yes.
Parents have the right to shield their own child from course materials.
That's right. This is Mahmoud v. Taylor, which is another 6-3 decision.
Sure.
You can see a partisan, or at least a philosophical line being drawn on the Supreme Court. But this is a case that originated in Maryland, in Montgomery County School District, where children weren't being taught factual or historical things. They were being taught things that were based in values. They were being read books where boys and other boys are getting married and the whole community comes together, the whole kingdom comes together and supports, as one example of a book. And a lot of parents, there were some Muslim parents, there were some Catholic families that said this violates our value system and how we want to raise our children in our faith. And the school, and they asked for an opt-out, meaning if you're going to read these books to other kids, that's fine, but allow us to opt our children out. The school district said, no, we're not going to give you an opt-out. Your children have to receive this curriculum. And so the parents sued. That case went to the U.S. Supreme Court. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that parents have a First Amendment right to not have their religious views violated and not have an opt-out. So now school districts have to provide an opt-out for parents who find something objectionable based on their faith.
Yeah, and we already do have mechanisms in place in this state too, where people can report a book
Absolutely.
to the Board of Education if they say, well, you know what, I don't know if I like this, can you review it? So this is just an offshoot of that.
Pretty much.
Right there, essentially said from the highest court in the land. When we come back, there's something else to talk about. Okay. I can't imagine what it is, though. The word begins with a G. He's running for it when we come back on Connect to the Capitol.
I am announcing my candidacy to be the next governor for the great state of South Carolina.
A little over a week ago, the Attorney General, Helen Wilson, going public with something I think we all suspected in political circles here in the state of South Carolina, throwing his hat in the ring to run for governor in 2026. First open GOP gubernatorial primary in almost 20 years. You've gone in. You've got one other opponent that's declared so far, and Senator Josh Kimbrough. We know there's some others that will probably be in there as well. It's going to be a crowded field. So why now? You've done incredible work in the Attorney General's office, 4 terms. Is it just time for change, or what is it? What drove you to do this?
First off, I have loved being Attorney General for the state of South Carolina. I've accomplished so much. My team and I have accomplished so much. And this is a job you can do forever. But as the Attorney General, I have been in positions to go after corruption in government, to sue when people violate the law. But I have seen things in government such as deficiencies in government, lack of regulatory approach, people just bureaucrats abusing their power, but it doesn't rise to a criminal level. And I kept thinking, as the Attorney General, I don't have the tools and it's not my lane to address these issues. So I started thinking about what else can I do? And these opportunities don't come around that often. I said, what else can I do as a public official to try to make South Carolina better? I've been in this job now for going on 15 years. Prayed about it, talked to my family about it. It seemed like the right decision. I said, let's do this. We jumped in, and it has been a wild ride for the last week and a half. I've enjoyed every moment of it, and I look forward to taking my case to the people of South Carolina about what I can do for them as their next governor.
If the last week it has been wild, just wait, right?
Yeah.
Wait.
It has been tremendous, and I can tell you right now, I've already received a number of sheriff endorsements. We have a lot more endorsements coming out. The reception's been great. As a 29-year veteran of the National Guard and a combat veteran who's led soldiers in combat, as someone who has chaired the National Republican AG Association 3 different times and has a national profile on major issues, I believe that I am uniquely qualified to lead this state, to transform it, to protect families, to basically promote economic growth, eliminating the income tax, doing regulatory reform, lawsuit reform, going out there and reforming our education system. These are things that I want to bring to the state of South Carolina. I want to doge all of fraud, waste, and abuse out of all government levels, from school board all the way to state agencies. We're going to attack those inefficiencies with a fierce passion, and we're going to bring real reform to South Carolina when I'm elected governor.
You mentioned your military service. Public service in general is important to you. Your father, your military service, almost 20 years now in office as Attorney General. This is part of who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been baked in my DNA. My three brothers and I, all four of us are Eagle Scouts. All four of us have served as officers in the military. All four of us have served overseas. You know, while my other three brothers aren't involved in public service, you know, my dad, I followed my dad's footsteps in serving the public, and this is something that I'm very passionate about. I love people, I love the state of South Carolina, and I really enjoy traveling the state and hearing what people want from their next governor, so that I intend to deliver that to them next year.
Was there, I know you said you talked to family about it, which is vitally important. You've talked to advisors. Was there any moment in the last couple of years where the bell went off, you said, I have to? Was there some incident that you saw where you say, I can't do enough from the AG's office to change this?
So I started from a position of, this is something I feel like I want to do, but it's an awesome responsibility, and you have to take your whole family through this process with you. And so it says, I know that I want to do it, but is this a vanity play for me, or is this a call to public service? And I wanted to make sure that I was doing a gut check to make sure that I was doing this for the right reasons, and that I was truly going to be all in it, because running statewide is not just difficult on the candidate, it's difficult. I got 2 teenage children. I got a wonderful wife at home. I mean, you're taking them on this journey with you, and I wanted to make sure that they had full buy-in, and they were so supportive. I was honored to have their blessing to do this, and as you can see from that last clip, they were up there on stage with me.
Yeah, it had to mean a lot to you to have your teenage son be part of the introduction.
Oh man, I got up, and after he was done talking, I said, who's been cutting onions out here? Because I mean, Niagara Falls, I was very emotional. It was great to see him up there.
Yeah, it was. As this field continues to take shape, you know this is going to be a dogfight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is a job that demands people to run for it who have thick skin, who are tough, who are battle tested. These are all things that I possess. There are going to be other people running. This position, the office of governor, does not belong to any one occupant. It belongs to the people of South Carolina. We have to go on a statewide job interview. This belongs to the citizens of South Carolina, and I don't expect them to give me their vote. I want to go out there and earn their vote. And so I know every candidate that's going to throw their hat in the ring will have to do the same thing. Again, I believe I'm uniquely qualified and capable to do this job, and to be basically a visionary governor, to lead us to the next generation, to make generational reforms and transform our government to better work for the people of South Carolina.
If you were sworn into that office tomorrow, what is job number one?
Eliminate the income tax.
Okay.
We need to catch up with states in the southeast. There's 3 states that have already done it. There's 5 other states that are moving there. I want to doge the state. I want to get rid of fraud, waste, and abuse, and I want to address education. I want earlier access to reading comprehension and math comprehension for kids, and I want greater access for kids to knock out more college credits while in high school, so that that college will be more affordable and more in reach, or that kids can at least graduate high school with nearly an associate's degree and get straight to work. But we want to create more opportunities for more families and more small businesses, so they can grow our economy. And it's not the government that grows an economy, it's the people operating in the free market.
Well, I have a feeling we're going to see you around here in this studio quite often over the next few months.
Just a bit.
You know, can't officially file till March, but we're here.
Yes, sir.
We're here. So second to declare, but you're hoping to finish first.
Actually, I was the first to declare.
Oh, you were? Okay, so okay, we got to get the facts right.
That's right. I was the first one to say we were going to be announcing. So
that's true. You did. You did. See, that's why he's here. He's got to keep me straight here.
No fake news, man.
No, that's right. Alan, always good to see you. You know you're always welcome here, and we'd love to have you again, and I know we probably will, to talk about a lot of things.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Appreciate you.
Alan Wilson, the Attorney General, also, as you know, running for governor. We'll be right back on Connect to the Capitol. All right, welcome back to Connect to the Capitol. How about a blast from the past? Andre Bauer, the former lieutenant governor, youngest in state history, he's running for Senate against who? Lindsey Graham, a GOP challenger with some money behind him and a little bit of clout. That video you're looking at there is from 2024 when President Trump was announcing his Team South Carolina, the boots on the ground. Henry McMaster there as well. Bauer has, of course, been a close ally of both of those men. Mm-hmm. However, Lindsey Graham has already got the endorsement of President Trump. But if you saw the campaign ad for Andre Bauer, there was some cash floating around this campaign already.
Absolutely, and you would not believe necessarily seeing that campain ad that
he's running? Yeah. He's not in it very much. It's Donald Trump that's in it quite a bit.
That's a good point. Yeah, he absolutely is putting Donald Trump front and center,
Sure.
and you would almost not even know that Lindsey Graham has already been endorsed.
Yep.
Because he's so hard after the MAGA vote in this ad. He's trying to claim all that for himself, which is interesting also given the two men's relationship.
Absolutely.
This is a place where there have been challengers to Lindsey Graham
Many times.
every 6 years. He always has challengers. And for him, it's usually the more the merrier because it splits that angsty vote that's going against Lindsey Graham. But what we're dealing with now is if this vote can get consolidated behind a singular candidate that he then has to face in a primary, that's going to be the telltale sign here. But one thing Lindsey Graham does have behind his name, not just R-SC for a Republican from South Carolina, but a bunch of dollar signs that follow that.
Yes.
I mean, it's more like $, because he has been working and has built up such a war chest over the years. And to be honest, let's help you understand this. Lindsey Graham tries to work with every consultant he possibly can to keep everybody else out of the race. Let's just call it for what it is. And so when you look at this, you now have Andre Bauer, who was a rising state senator, became lieutenant governor, ran in the 2010 race, the same race with Nikki Haley,
and lost
in that particular race, went on to be a political commentator with CNN, has since gotten married, has kids, and has reformed what at some point in time people said was a little bit of a reputation.
Absolutely, a bit of a wild man.
Right, but at this point, he seems like a solid family man with a solid track record behind him.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be very interesting, not just one major race to watch.
No, and there's going to be a lot of money floating around this race on both sides, because on the Democratic side, you have Dr. Annie Andrews in the Low Country. We're hearing she's raised more than $1 million already since declaring a little more than a month ago.
Right.
So she's got backing as well. On the Democratic side, ran against Nancy Mace for Congress a few years back, didn't win. And Lee Johnson, engineer from the upstate as well, a Democrat. Don't know what his funding will look like, but he's also in the race. Yeah.
Well, I don't think we'll see what we saw last time when it was Jamie Harrison running.
Oh,
that was $150 million bag of money that she dropped over. And Lindsey Graham won handily with that particular race. And so I think the difference here is this, and we talked about this before, voter turnout in a Republican primary is somewhere between 13 and 22% of the voters. So they're trying to figure out who can we get to show up at the polls, and these MAGA voters, a lot of MAGA voters know that Trump supports Lindsey, but they don't support Lindsey. And that's going to be who Andre Bauer is going after in this race.
That's
exactly right.
Next few months are going to be fun to watch.
Certainly
Next week, we're going to try to get Senator Josh Kimbrell in here. Also has declared on the Republican side, running for governor. We want to talk to him about that race. So we of course talked to Alan Wilson today. So we want to give our offer. Fair and equal time to Josh Kimbrell.
And we want to make sure that you, as the viewers, have a chance to hear from them directly, more than just what you hear in a normal story here on the newscast.
And get to know them.
Right, get to know them and have a real in-depth conversation.
Right, because so many policies may be aligned. We have a strong conservative slate of candidates, many of them pursuing strong conservative policies, but a lot of the real difference is going to be that relationship, how they connect with the voters, how they connect with the lawmakers over at the State House.
And how we connect all of you to the Capitol. See what we did there? That's called a segue. But we hope everyone enjoyed their holiday weekend, of course, July 4th. Hope it was safe and enjoyable for everyone. It's still not over quite yet, but
it is a long weekend.
It is a long weekend.
We're glad you woke up.
And it'll probably be a long week, too. But we will see you again next Sunday in South Carolina.
Have a great day.